Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. I am Sean Anderson, Most Valuable Podcast, and the upcoming segment is from our full Fast Break podcast that we recorded. And if you do want to check out that full podcast, head over to Blog Talk Radio/The Fast Break. You'll be able to find the full podcast over there. But anyways, let's move on now to picks 11 through 20. We're kicking it off with the Charlotte Hornets. And I got a pick that I'm not too sold on, but I'm going to go with it anyways. This is the first time that this guy's been so high in my mock for a while now. He is Harry Giles out of Duke, a guy that has a lot of injury problems, looks very slow at Duke, did not look like the number one high school prospect coming out back in 2016. But you look at his potential, you look at his abilities, again, number one high school prospect. Last year, I look at Harry Giles, maybe the injuries have subsided a little bit. Maybe he was just really taking it very easily at Duke because he knew that his NBA career was coming up. So I know Charlotte, it might be a tough pill to swallow, but I look at his ability, if he does really play up to his potential, him and Kemba Walker be a nasty duo, because I'm not too sold on Marvin Williams, a guy that was really iffy, had a nice season, last year or 2 years ago, and was a decent stretch for, but he wasn't anything special. I think Harry Giles could be something special if he's able to stay healthy. So Harry Giles may be a little bit too high, but let's go with Harry Giles and be a little bit bold on a 5.0.
Sometimes you can be bold on your picks, and he has upside. Like you said, there's a reason he was the number one guy in high school, but there's a reason why he's not anymore. And he has no knees. Literally none. Yeah. No knees. And I think it's good. He's definitely going to be in this team, like the 11 to probably 20 range for all of us. So I think you're in the right area. I just feel like it's a hard reach for them to go for Harry right now. That's why Ricky and I both agreed on this one. We went with Zach Collins, kind of a more for sure thing coming out of Gonzaga. I think that he kind of fills out what they need down low in the post. So for me, it's more of we're going to shore up this position so much, we're not going to have to look back at this for the next 5 years. Like, we're locked down in this role.
You got Cody Zeller's locked down. You got Frank down there. You can get Collins down there to where you look at it and go, yeah, we're not just drafting you for the center. We're drafting you for the low post, and you're going to help us out not just on offense but defense as well.
I like Zach Collins a lot. Don't get me wrong. I like him better than Harry Giles. Easier pick, but I think a lot of people look at the potential of Harry Giles and think it might be a little bit too much for people to pass up. I'm just throwing it out there. I think Charlotte will probably end up going with the safer pick because this was a playoff team last year, probably getting back to that same want to get back to that same place this year. I think Zach Collins will probably help them more sooner rather than a guy like Harry Giles. But again, go bold. Why not? We could all have Zach Collins going there. We know his ability. He could be a great stretch forward player. He could be a decent player inside as well. We've seen his defensive ability as well in Gonzaga and in the tournament. He looked really good. So I think it's a player that I totally would not disagree with you guys having at 11. But let's move on now to Detroit, a team that I think has really bad luck here.
These last two picks, like Charlotte and then Detroit, I just literally looked at these and went, what am I going to do? Well, what am I going to do? And sat there for like a half hour.
Detroit, I've been doing that since my 3.0, 2.0 because I have no idea. Really, Detroit, what they need is a point guard. But like we've said, there are no point guards. Really,
they missed out.
Unless if you want to reach him, Juwan Evans, there is no point guard. You look at Reggie Jackson, again, a very selfish player, a guy that really struggled in his first full year in Detroit. He was really nice in the playoffs when they went up against the Cavs, got swept. He was really nice what's coming over from OKC. But this year, for some reason, really didn't gel. This team looked really lackluster. They weren't able to move the ball at all. It was a really stagnant offense. I look at this. You really need a point guard, but again, 12 is too far to be taking a point guard. There is no point guards available.
But you got your best available, pseudo-best available.
Best available, and again, we've talked about his potential possibly in Donovan Mitchell to turn into a 1. I'm not really buying into that, but hell, if Van Gundy buys into it, thinks he can really develop Donovan Mitchell into a 1, it might be a nice fit. But then again, he is a good defender, could turn into a good defender, good shooter, good 3-and-D player at the worst. So Donovan Mitchell is the pick there at Detroit. Detroit needs 3-point shooting, so Donovan Mitchell fits in.
Donovan Mitchell, if he was there for me, because I had him going at number 10 to the Kings, if he was there, he could fit one of two positions. He can go with that point guard if you're sold on him developing into that. Or you can say, hey, you know what? We haven't really been kind of blown away by Caldwell Pope. Coming up, he's a restricted free agent this year. Let's draft a guy who we think is going to eventually take over for the shooting guard position. That's why I got Luke Kennard out of Duke. And it's his shooting, what he brings offensively. He can also drive as well. And, I mean, like you said, there's no point guards available, so why not go and kind of replace a guy that I'm not really impressed with in Caldwell Pope.
He's actually kind of an underrated passer as well. I think that he doesn't get enough credit for that on that Duke team. I went with Donovan Mitchell, though. of course, wasn't on your board. But for me, Mitchell, as someone with, unfortunately, he's a very NBA-wise short player, but he does have a long wingspan. I think he's like 6'10", 6'9", and he's athletic. So really I'm not worried about him guarding at all. Like defensively, between athleticism and wingspan, those are the two keys to here's the template for a good defender in the NBA. So not concerned there. The three-point shot, you said, it has gotten better as the season progressed. And actually he didn't, for me, it's more of a, once that's a sure thing, it's find your true role. Are you going to be a tweener? Are you going to be a combo guard? Or are you going to be a true 1 or 2? And any way you split it, like for Detroit, let them figure it out. Because you can't go wrong either way in my mind with that pick. I feel like for sure he's going to be an NBA quality player for the next decade. I just, when you watch him play, it's like, whatever it is, he's got it, and I absolutely love watching him play because it's kind of like I don't want to say it's a spark because he doesn't have like that kind of like take over the game energy, but like he is a quality player, and Detroit, I think, perfect fit for him.
Yeah, I think you look at you mentioned Donovan Mitchell's athleticism, and Donovan Mitchell, I mean, he had one of the craziest highlights as well in college. He had that alley-oop toss, and it wasn't even clean, but it was still absolutely nasty. I think pairing that with a young player and a young team already in Detroit. I mean, this is one of the youngest teams already, and they're sitting at 12.
It's just a question of like, who are they going to continue to build on, because there's so much talk about losing faith in Drummond down low and the struggles at point guard and maybe the lack of development from some of the other younger players. So for me, it's kind of a team kind of in a weird wish, like not quite sure where they're going as a franchise. So I think Mitchell is kind of a great guy who's going to come and be a sure thing for them. Yeah,
I think it's interesting to see what Detroit does. I still think they're in a rough situation there. A team with a lot of expectations too, because that was a team I had like third in the Eastern Conference playoff predictions, so you can see how wrong I was there. But let's move on now to Denver. They're sitting at 13th spot, and this is a position, really a team that has a lot of options. A team that obviously Danilo Gallinari is coming up on his contract. Wilson Chandler wasn't too happy in his spot in Denver as well. I think his contract's running up as well. You look at Denver.
Got a player option after next year.
Player option. Thank you, Ricky. You look at Denver. They're going to need to fill that small forward position. I'm looking at OG Anunoby, a guy that obviously had an injury problem, but you look at his game when healthy. He's athletic, has a really great defensive side to him, and he's really athletic. Obviously needs to work on his shot a little bit, but there's still some hope there for OG. So I really like OG at Denver at number 13, but you got a different player, Ricky. Who you got?
Well, really it came down to I was going to take a small forward with this position, and it was either between Anunoby and who I eventually had them taking in Justin Jackson. And the reason why I looked at the small forwards, like you said, Wilson Chandler, I think he's going to opt out after next year, because you look at the amount he's going to make if he takes that player option, about $12.8 million, with how everything is skyrocketing. Opt out, maximize the money that you can get from a contract now. I don't think Denver's going to want to pay for it. And this is where you go, well, which one do we want? I'm kind of a little scared at 13 with the injury of Anunoby, and Jackson's a guy who can come in. He's a jack of all trades and can kind of do a lot of things for me at that 3 position.
Again, I talked about this before the podcast, and again, with the injury with OG Anunoby, he's like, where's Carmen Sandiego? We have no idea what's going around. There's no news about the guy's damn injury. We have no idea what he's doing, and we don't know if he's healthy. We don't even know if he has legs anymore. We don't know what's happening. Maybe he's turned into a cyborg.
News is good news.
Maybe he's...
No,
it's not. Maybe he's not even injured. Maybe this was all a joke. I have no idea. I don't know what's going on with OG. Dave, obviously you're not too scared, as you also have OG there.
No, I think the fit's great for him in Denver, and it's a team that they already know where they're going, and it's direction of the team, and they have a solid core together, and it's a young core. They've got great guards coming up, and honestly, I think that OG just kind of is there's definitely a risk there, because if his knee is not going to be healthy, and honestly, I don't expect him to play for like the first probably 3 months of this year, even if like best case scenario, because he got hurt in January, did he not?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's usually a full year to come back around to get back to any sort of playing shape. So for a player with his athleticism and, the way he played so hard and aggressively, there's definitely a concern there about when he returns, will he have that quickness? Will he have that instant first step? And there's concern, but at the same time, Denver at 13, the upside there, and knowing that you already have decent young players there, that, you know what? You don't have to rush it this year. We can let you come back for like the last month or 2 of the year, and that's totally fine with us.
And I think one thing, too, you talk about OG rehabbing. One thing, the most recent thing to come up and his injury, it says it was from the Vertical, OG Anunoby aggressively rehabbing in effort to play in NBA next season. So obviously not going to be a guy that steps in right away, and if he is aggressively rehabbing, that might be crucial to either his growth or maybe he re-injures that ACL. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with OG Anunoby. Again, the potential's there, but we'll see how much the injury actually affects him. But let's move on now to Miami and Ricky. I'm going to give it off to you, a guy that has completely fallen off your board. Dave and I had him at 10.
He's on the board. He's still in the lottery.
I'm saying fallen from barely on your lottery. A guy that Dave and I had at 10. You have him making his appearance at 14. Talk about the pick and why he is a good fit.
And that's Lauri Markkanen. And the reason why he's fallen is when I've had him in the top 10, it's been to kind of either Dallas or Sacramento. I didn't have them going in that way. And I mean, Donovan Mitchell moving up into my top 10, someone's got to get bumped out. And this is, to me, Miami is a good fit for Markkanen because I look at their power forward situation, not sold on Babbitt. I mean, Haslam, Josh Roberts, Chris Bosh not on the team anymore. They need a power forward. And Lauri Markkanen, in some sort of way, I'm not going to say it's an exact comparison, can be that guy, maybe fit a similar role that Chris Bosh used to fit offensively when they originally signed him, and give them some depth and some three from that 4 position.
And Dave, looking at your pick for Miami, would talk about it a little bit.
I completely agree with you. If Markkanen is like the dream scenario for Miami, TJ Leaf is next up, though. He's the next 4 on the board who has the ability to stretch the floor out. He's a great shooter.
Can pass.
Good passing, passable rebounder. Defensively, he's not going to stop anybody. But you know what? That team, when you have someone like Hassan Whiteside down low for you, if they blow by you, good luck. Good luck getting past Hassan Whiteside. So honestly, I love the fit there, and he gives them a good chunk of scoring to match up if they do decide to re-sign Dion Waiters, or if they make any other big splashes in free agency this year. I think he's a great piece who, will absolutely complement them and help them stretch out this floor and kind of find that staple at the 4. Like you said, due to injuries and due to health concerns, they haven't really had that 4 for 2 years now. So it's really up to him to come in and be the guy, and I do have some faith in that.
And we all have similar lines of thinking. Stretch 4, or a guy to fit the 4, stretch the 4 out a little bit. Obviously, with Hassan Whiteside's lack of being able to do that, but this is a guy that you guys had going at 11. I have Zach Collins going at 14. I think it could be a very interesting fit. A guy that's not too bad at defensively. Him and Whiteside could be a good pair down low. You also look at his ability to stretch out the floor if he can do that successfully in the NBA. I think Zach Collins could be
behind the 3 line.
Yeah, I think Zach Collins could be a very nice fit there in Miami for the reasons you guys said about Lauri Markkanen and TJ Leaf. I just think that Zach Collins might be a little more polished and a little, he's bigger. He has more of an NBA body than TJ Leaf. So I think that he, there might be a draw on the athleticism there, but with a guy like Hassan Whiteside, you really don't need that much athleticism paired next to him. I think Zach Collins is a better all-around player, but still, I think we're going along the same lines. Stretch 4 for Miami might be the best fit for them. Let's move on to 15. The Portland Trailblazers, the first team outside of the lottery. I was going to say library. Lottery. And I got TJ Leaf.
We're at the library, Sean.
I got TJ Leaf going to Portland for the main reasons you guys said. A lot of athleticism, a guy that can shoot, a guy that can really develop because he got a lot of brush off from Lonzo Ball, a guy that can really be a nice distributor. You look at Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, they could set up him for outside shots as well. TJ Leaf's a guy that can do it from the outside. He also has a lot of athleticism to drive into the lane and be a guy who aggressively attacks the basket. So I think TJ Leaf would be a nice fit next to a guy like Nurkic, next to CJ McCollum, next to Dame Lillard, and I think really the next spot they need to fix is small forward at there. And Ricky, you kind of addressed that there.
I agree with you in that part. And the thing I find the most interesting about the Trailblazers and their roster for next year, not only is their total cap right now, according to SpotRack, at a $140 million, almost $141 million, they only have 3 guys this coming into this offseason that they can cut, and it's not guaranteed money, in Quarterman, Connaughton, and Festus. So to me, I look at this, they have 3 picks. This is the first one of 3. I'm just going to warn you right now, it's going to keep a trend and a theme for me. Go with OG. Get that spot, but it's one of those things where, hey, you know what? We might not have that open spot for you right now. Rehab that injury. We'll be here when you're ready. And then just boom, move forward.
Very interesting there. Dave,
yeah, I mean, I'm in the same line of thinking as far as take a player with potentially high upside.
There's just no spot for him.
Risk injury is the thing. So OG, yeah, there's not really a spot for him day one, and I think they're going to end up shuffling some contracts around, like you said. They are quite high and going to end up in the luxury tax multiple years in a row, it looks like. For me, it's Harry, though. I'm going with the man with no knees. On the odd chance that he has the comeback potential, like he would have been a top 5 pick if he had stayed healthy and shown anything to us anything at Duke.
Really hit that one game at Wake Forest, or at Cameron Indoor Stadium against Wake Forest, and he put up like 15 points, but just standing next to the basket.
Yeah, I mean, like it's a guy who you're gonna have to develop his outright game, but he has the physical body to be an NBA stud, and absolutely would be phenomenal. So you're gonna take a flyer on him at 15 Portland because you do have 3 picks in this first round, which is huge for you because you're going to need young talent to help fill out this roster as you move bad contracts out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Portland does because, again, you talk about a big bad contract there is Allen Crabbe there. I mean, you sign a guy to a huge extension there in Portland, and then he puts up the same amount of points. There's no growth in his game, so it's going to be interesting to see what Portland does with their cap. But they do have a lot of picks, and they do have a lot of ways to address their team. But let's move on to some team in Chicago. I don't know if you guys are fans or not.
Da
Bulls. We're going to 16, and Ricky, I'll let you talk about your team first off. Chicago Bulls at 16. Who are they picking and why?
Well, the first thing that I think we need desperately is shooting. But we need shooting, and we need someone that's going to actually fit the Fred Hoiberg system, not like old vets that don't fit the system as well as some.
You mean Rondo shouldn't be our best three-point shooter?
I mean, Rondo shouldn't be. D-Wade, I know he said in Game of Zones he developed a three-point shot, but I didn't see it at all. The big thing I look at is Nico. Nico's a restricted free agent this year, and I wouldn't be mad if he walked. Would not be mad if we lost him altogether, because who am I going to take? TJ Leaf, for all the reasons Dave said. He can shoot. He can pass. Yeah, he's not going to be the best defender for us, but you know what? We don't need him to play defense. We just need somebody who can shoot, and I'll even take it at the 4, because Nico, I think it was, April? If it was an April game, Nico's good to go.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Nico's not good to go.
Yeah, both Nico and Bobby Portis, so it was like one of the 2 players will actually show up for you tonight if you're in the last month of the year. That is the asterisk around both of them. You have to circle them both, like 50-50 odds. One of the 2 will play. The other one sucks horribly. I'm with you. They need to stretch out the floor. It's all about getting into the NBA game that is today, which is that 3-point shot has such value, and that's why I'm going Kennard. I love this guy, and I love saying his name.
Luke Kennard.
Is he from Massachusetts?
Probably not.
Okay.
Which is I love to do it. Look, he was a stud on Duke. He kind of stepped up because
he's from Ohio.
He was a sophomore.
He was Ohio Basketball Player of the Year, and I think there's some weird stat that links him and LeBron together.
Of course there is. Look, he was a stud at Duke. He came in there and he didn't take over his freshman year. Came back second year and really developed into a pretty well-rounded player. I mentioned earlier when Ricky had him going 12 to Detroit. You know, he's a great scorer from the outside. He's okay with the ball in his hands, and you know he doesn't absolutely stop an offense. He keeps the momentum rolling around him. So really the thing for this Bulls team is D-Wade's contract. We all know what it is, and you got to move forward with your franchise. You got to start playing for the future.
You got one more year with D-Wade.
Yep, for me, you got to go out and get Kennard, and then having him at the 2, Jimmy at the 3. I feel really confident. Maybe Bobby Portis will learn to play for a whole year. That'd be a really good lineup going
I got
forward.
a question for you then, because Kennard would come in as a shooting guard.
Yes.
What do you do at Valentine then? Are you scrapping Valentine, or are you finding a place for him?
Valentine, we still have to watch him develop. Same thing with Kennard. I think there's no concern. Like, Valentine was drafted as a tweener. We didn't see any real growth out of him. I know there was the struggle of, do you play the rookies or do you go for the veterans and go for the playoff push? So there's a lot of mixed management in Chicago, which led to a lot of poor development of players over the last 4 years. And I think Valentine is a wait-and-see player. He'd go down in the D-League and kill it for a little bit. He'd come up and be absolutely the worst player on the floor, bar none, by the eye test. Like, you didn't even have to look up at the scoreboard. So I feel like you go out, get Kennard, get someone who, honestly, it's kind of like a McDermott replacement in my mind, except for the fact that he has better potential than McDermott at this point in time, because we've seen where McDermott got held up at the NBA level. Kennard doesn't have the same liabilities against him. And
going back to Kennard, he was a 2-time Mr. Ohio basketball in his junior and senior year. He finished second in Ohio high school basketball scoring behind John Diebler. So apparently I mixed up LeBron James and Ohio State great John Diebler. LeBron the fifth all time. Anyways, let's move on now, getting away from Luke Kennard and LeBron James for some reason. 17 Milwaukee, team wingspan. I'm adding on to that. Jared Allen, a big guy down there. I think Greg Monroe. He wasn't terrible, to be honest with you. This year, he wasn't terrible, especially in the latter half of that season, and especially in the postseason. I mean, Greg Monroe had a decent year, but you look at this team; they're going to need to replace Greg Monroe at some point. I think Jared Allen's going to be a nice fit there. He's a guy that can be really fluid offensively, a guy that's great defensively. Again, he brings the speed, he brings some defense ability as well. Adding to team wingspan, I think that Jared Allen is a perfect fit there. Pairing with Thon Maker, pairing with Giannis Antetokounmpo, pairing with possibly Delly or Brogdon or Chris Middleton as well, and Jabari when he comes back. I think adding to this team, Milwaukee's are going to be really adding on to their youth and their wingspan and really this potential of this team.
Yeah, I mean there were two, because I got the same pick. I got Allen as well. There were two thought processes that went through my head. First off was Allen or Collins, and I looked at it and I was like, you know what? They need a 5 more than a 4. I could see Collins fitting that 4 spot. He's out. Then it went to, okay, they need a center, Allen or Patton, because Patton's a guy who there have even been things that I've seen that there are teams above Milwaukee that are looking at Patton and wouldn't be surprised if they get drafted above Milwaukee. So I'm looking at the two and I'm like, you know what? They already got Thon, who's kind of on the depth chart as that 5 right now. Not really that rim protector. Jared Allen can be that rim protector for you down low.
That's fair, and I think we all agree. Center is definitely the core hole on this team, and like you said, Thon was playing the 5, but it was more of like a ceremonious, starting 5 rather than you're a true fit to our system going forward. That's why I went with the wingspan of 7'6" and a quarter of Ike Anabogu. And look, the dude is raw, no doubt in my mind. Like he still has to pick up a lot of the game, and it will take some time for him to be comfortable in the NBA system. But the little bit you saw out of him, and it's a small sample size, but also knowing that he has such potential to grow to. So for me, raw product, crazy wingspan, and the fact that he's still is so young, like this has Milwaukee written all over it for me.
When you look at Ike, though, and you look at him, you look at a team that he was on in UCLA, would you say that being on UCLA either helped his stock or hurt his stock because maybe he wasn't getting enough playing time because there was guys ahead of him that were at least better athletes or were used to the Alfred system? Or do you think that hurt? Do you think it benefited or hurt him really?
I think it definitely benefited him. The thing with UCLA is because they were a complete team and you had a real system and you had correct role players playing. I feel like you kind of know, like in college football, where it's like the pro style offense versus you're running Texas Tech bullshit where you're throwing 400 yards a game every 5 minutes. Yeah. So I feel like Ike had as close to a real quality NBA experience from a team going to UCLA, and I think that playing around guys who have NBA level talent like Lonzo Ball, like Leaf, that you're going to get a better product out of him because he was able to learn from guys who have a deeper understanding of the game.
I don't know. I think it'd be interesting with Ike because, you kind of get the rub off. You say you're getting a rub from playing with good players. Maybe it could be beneficial. I think it also might hurt him. Maybe his stock is rising because he was from UCLA. But again, you look at the kind of base line of him. You look at the kind of blueprint of him. Big player, long wingspan.
6'10", 7'6" wingspan, and he's still 18.
It fits for Milwaukee. I mean, it really does. It fits for Milwaukee. I mean, with the last pick of Thon Maker. So it's going to be interesting to see what Ike happens there. I think Jared Allen just might be more of a safe pick. I think that's why Ricky and I have him going with him.
Too.
Yeah. So let's see. Anyways, let's move on now to Indiana. We have familiar faces for me, at least. My most overrated prospect, but still going to be going 18. Justin Jackson. Ricky said a jack of all trades, can play offensively. Going to be a pretty decent 3-and-D player. I don't know really. You look at Indiana's situation with PG-13. Maybe at least trying to get something there at the small forward position because he is an older player. He is a senior coming out. Maybe he can step in, at least be not a stopgap for Paul George, but at least be something that might be serviceable his first year. Definitely not going to give you the level of production that a superstar like PG-13 will give you, but Justin Jackson can at least be serviceable out of that small forward position. I don't know if he's going to be growing too much out of that. I think he'd be a really good 3-and-D player, but I don't think he's going to be taking it to the next level of a superstar, all-star, anything like that. But I think Justin Jackson could still be a decent player at Indiana. But Ricky, looking at them, you're going big for Indiana.
And the main reason why I'm going big is because let's be honest. At this point in the draft, if you guys have followed how my picks have been going, there's no guy there that you're going to be like, yep, can step in and fill in for Paul George when he leaves. Not if he leaves, when he leaves. And the other position that I look at, Thaddeus Young. He's another one after next season. We'll have a player option. We'll probably opt out of that to try to, yet again, capitalize on the cap just to get more money. Question is Indy going to want to play him? Plus, at the end of next season, Al Jefferson, another big who, he's got that $10 million for 18-19, but it's not guaranteed. So they can cut him, not have to pay it. That is two bigs that could be gone and not re-signed. That's why I'm going to go with the best big right now on my board who can fit that power forward spot, and that's John Collins, an older kind of player, not the one and done, can come in, had great coaching, I'm going to say, with Daniel Manning at Wake Forest, and you can come in and know that he's a really coachable player at the 4.
And Dave, you're kind of in the same way like as me, going small forward here, kind of small forward, power forward, hybrid here. One guy you're really high on, so talk about your pick.
Yeah, so I really love Tyler Lydon. Coming out of Syracuse, I think
Gladden
Lydon. I think the kid can kill it. He's a 50, 40, 80 shooter, like his split. So like solid shooter in college. Honestly, it's more of the question of like in today's NBA, you said it's small forward, power forward. It's guards, wings, and bigs. Like it's positionless play at this point. I really trust him going forward. He's got a good body, good frame, and his shooting stroke is like beautiful for me. Like I think he is probably one of the most underrated guys in this draft. I know there have been mocks out there with him going as late as like 30 to 35 range. But personally, I think I'm really high on him, and I think he will succeed at the next level. The big question for him is defensively, if he'll be able to keep up, because he didn't see a top-tier competition every night in college. So that's kind of the big question mark. But honestly, it's something that you can kind of grow with because he has the body and the frame. So I'm not uber worried about that.
Tyler Lydon at 18, I agree with you. I think that he's too low when people say 30, 35, second rounder. I think Tyler Lydon's definitely a for sure first rounder. We'll see how he develops so defensively. But let's move on now to Atlanta. Hot Atlanta. We all have the same player going here. So Ricky, Dave, whoever wants to take it or both want to take it, explain the pick of Justin Patton from Creighton going to Hot Atlanta.
I'm just going to say it. I mean, Dwight Howard's not going to be there forever. He's getting up in age, and I mean, Justin Patton could be a guy you draft and let Dwight Howard, like, who could be one of the better stars in this league to learn from and have him give minutes.
Star anymore.
I would say he's one of the pretty big figures in this league, although he's not going to win a title. He's still a star in this league. Not a superstar, but a star in this league.
And we will do that when we do positional rankings again. So I will wait.
I can't wait.
They'll just have to wait for that. But yeah, I agree. Justin Patton, a guy that really is terribly defensively. So hopefully Dwight Howard can rub a little bit off of that. Early Dwight Howard can rub a little bit off of that on him. But really look at the offensive potential with Justin Patton. He looks fantastic, at least on that standpoint. But let's move on to Portland. Their second appearance here in the NBA draft. And we all have familiar faces, just guys flipped around that have gone before. For Portland, I have them going with Ike Anigbogu. I think we're 2 for 2 on that last name tonight, and kind of
we'll see if we go 3 for 3 because I got him later.
I think with what Dave was saying, agree. I agree with that. I was just playing devil's advocate here. I think that he did learn a lot from UCLA. He's a guy with a lot of potential. He has the body, he has the frame. I think he can be a very interesting player, and plus he doesn't need to play right away in Portland because you have Nurkic, you have TJ Leaf, who they just drafted. At least in my mock draft, I think there's a lot of potential and a lot of time for Ike to grow, and especially pairing him with a guy like TJ Leaf, who he already was teammates before, having that kind of familiarity, I think that could help him develop. Ricky, you have injury prone.
Yeah, Portland, don't hate me because I know Sean had mentioned before the podcast Greg Oden, Brandon Roy. I'm going with another guy with knee injuries, but it's just because of your situation of we can draft a guy and not expect him to start this year and kind of ease his way with the injury. Harry Giles. It's another kind of similar situation to Anunoby where it's like, you know what? I love the potential that's there, especially at this pick. We just don't have room. We don't have any room. We've got 3 guys that we can cut if we want to. We just got too many contracts on this roster.
Fair enough. And I've got John Collins. Defensively, man, nobody wants to deal with that. But offensively, he's a great finisher at the rim. He's not going to pass the ball. He's a closer. He takes the ball, and it's going in the hoop. End of story. So I think Portland, it's your backup pick in case, because I had Harry Giles going at 15. So if he doesn't pan out, you've got another guy who can go into that small forward or power forward.
And that's going to wrap up our top 20. I think all fair picks. I don't think anything's too crazy. Ricky's not saying a 6'9" guy can play the 2. I think we had a pretty good segment here. Thank you. Oh, shit. Oh, it's just one of our videos scared me a little bit. Don't forget to check out that one. And also don't forget to check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. But thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.